Well, hello there. Welcome along to another Shed Chat Live here with me, Jennifer Kirk, and it's really great to have you along. It's been such a busy week, but this is going to be our routine now every single Monday at 7 p.m. We're going to get down and dirty on the Shed Chat Live, so it is available live, obviously, hence the name. But you can watch it on catch up as well, so don't worry if you're not here from the beginning. And obviously, if you're not here from the beginning, you won't get this message unless you watch it back. So, just get the word out there, that kind of thing. But what are we going to talk about today? Well, actually, there's been a few announcements new from Daypol, so I thought that it might be a good idea to take a quick look at them, because we've done Oxford Rail, Bachmann, Hornby. Why not have a look at what Daypol have on offer? So just having a look, seeing we've got a few people turned on up, so do post your comments in the live chat. It's always good to hear from you. But let's see, what have we got for the Drinky Poos today? So Drinky Poos is a nice little fair trade. They're doing my bit for the hipster community. Excuse me, it's very dusty. I've been all over the loft actually for the last couple of days, so a little bit of dust in the back of my throat. It's not insulation dust, it's actually brick dust. I've been drilling holes in the wall, in a brick wall, and getting roll plugs in there for fastening stuff to the wall. But we've got a cheeky South African red, and that's going to be the tipple of choice. Got comments coming through. Southern Train Girl, hi to you. Charles Curtis, hi to you too. Ned's Trains, good to have you along. Chorley Junction, evening to you. And Cranky Chris, evening to you. Yep, you've made it to the start. Brilliant. It's always good to have you along. I'm just going to fill my glass because I'm spitting dust out here. I've scrubbed myself up, and those of you who've been following my series of videos about building up in the loft, probably best get some of the Q&A out of the way for those. Been asked loads and loads of questions, but oh, that is nice. When you're just in the mood sometimes for a nice bit of red wine, I tend to oscillate. Sometimes I like white, sometimes I like red, sometimes I like neither. Don't really often, if at all, ever fancy rosé, I must admit. Ned's Trains, did you go to the ELR, East Lancs Railway, Sulzer Day on Saturday? No, I didn't. I was away working in, where was I? Where did I go? Hull. I was in Hull on Saturday with work. So actually, I visited a very large factory that makes cheesecakes, and they gave me a big box of cheesecake to come away with, which isn't helping the diet. But I got back to the office and I was like, cheesecake, anybody? Just giving away these cheesecakes. So if you bought a cheesecake, fresh chiller cabinet cheesecake from Asda any time today, then I was there when they were being made at the factory in Hull. Right, hello everybody's coming in. Gosh, we've got quite a few people coming in. Gary Tate, Collins, Engage, and Jason Riddy. Hello to you all. Always good to have you along. Right, where were we? Oh yes, meanwhile back at the ranch. Yeah, I've been doing loads of work. If you've been following that series of videos about work up in the loft, it's come on pretty well actually in just a little over 2 weeks. We've gone from being really filthy and horrible up there and looking out through chinks of light through between the slates, which is perfectly normal for a slate roof. Just because you can see daylight doesn't mean there's a problem with it. But we got it all lined out, and I did get a question come in about excuse me, about planning permission, and this isn't going to be oh, excuse me. This isn't going to be a bedroom or a living room or a room for occupancy. There's no modification to the roof structure itself, so it comes within the permitted development. Basically, it's a storage room. It just happens to be storing a large model railway. Well, it will do ultimately. I have strengthened the floor, so don't worry about me disappearing through into the rooms underneath. Maybe famous last words. There are bits that aren't boarded out, and right over in the corners, I do need to put down something just to support what's going to get stored there. But if you peel back the insulation, you can see the ceiling. What's interesting as well, actually, when I was oh, sorry, the dust just gets the back of your throat. When I was checking out all the beams and stuff, I actually found the old 1920s era electrical wiring, and it just goes to show, if you've got an old house or an old building that's never been rewired, you are treading on eggshells, my friend, because I was looking at this old 1920s wiring, and it's just been cut out. Everything's been rewired, so the proper 1980s, 1990s era electrics are there, and they're all up to code. But just abandoned in the cavities is this old 1920s electrical wiring, and God, the insulation is like cloth and I'm presuming vulcanized rubber, but it's all crumbled away to dust. You know, it's quite shocking. If your house still is running on 1920s era electrics, you need to get that sorted, because they just came apart. You know, literally you could just sort of pull on these wires and the insulation just came off in your hands, leaving the bare copper. You know, the copper's all right. It's just the insulation. And insulation is quite important. Also, people did ask about power and lighting. Well, I thought that I had power up there because there was 3-pin plug sockets up there, and I thought, oh brilliant, there's already power up here. And then I remembered, after I managed to trip out the fuse panel when I plugged in my circular saw and tried to use it to cut some wood, I popped out the circuit breaker, and the circuit breaker that popped out was for the upstairs lighting circuit. Yeah, that's right. The cowboys that we bought this house from had wired plug sockets into the lighting circuits. So immediately a long extension lead came out of storage and was passed down through the loft hatch and plugged in downstairs. So I need to drop a spur down into the office. There's up here actually, there's a hole in the roof. Well, it isn't like, you know, it's not like hello up there. But it's where we passed a whole load of cables down through. So there's provision for cables, and I'm going to put in some proper high quality mains cable down here, put in a spur, put in a fuse box up there so that, you know, it's all separate to itself, and I'm going to put in some proper plug sockets, because what's clear is the power that's up there is taken off the lighting circuit. I mean, who does that? Oh yeah, the people we bought the house from. You should have seen some of the dodgy stuff that we got. I mean, there's a reason that you're not allowed to mess about with electrics unless you're certified, because quite frankly, some people do all sorts of horrors in the privacy of their own home. 78 sound, do I need permits to do that job? No, you just have to be qualified to do it. So, you know, that's like a year's worth of night school to get the appropriate qualifications is what it takes. Also, my grandfather is he's retired now, but he was a fully coded up electrician. That's what he did for a living. So I always wheel him over, and his eyesight's gone, but his memory hasn't. So he kind of supervises and make sure that everything is in the right place. Let's have a look. Barnabas Junction Model Row. Hi Jenny, loft is coming along nicely. Oh, are you doing a loft conversion as well? Brilliant. It's amazing how much space you can find up there. But obviously do be careful about joists and stuff, because a lot of houses, especially those with prefabricated roof trusses, they don't actually... They're designed down to a price, and I've seen them being made in the dim and distant past, and they just kind of put them through. It's like a huge mangle almost, and they lay out on the flat all the bits of pre-cut timber, and they have these metal plates with spikes on, and they roll them all together. But you know, the wood is just thick enough, and that's you know how they make these things, just good enough. So they're not really designed for people or immense amounts of weight crawling around up there. So, you know, you've got to be ever so careful. It would need some serious bracing if you've got pre-made trusses for your roof to be able to put a loft layout up there. It doesn't mean you can't do it. It's just you've got to be aware of that. Let's have a look. What do we got? Let's have a look down. Dogger Bend Railway. What do you think of Soundtrax decoders? If they're the ones I'm thinking of, they're about half the price. excuse me, of the things like the Lock Sound and the Zemo sound decoders, and the one which I've road tested. It's currently in a Class 37, and it really does sound good as a Class 37, but it's a very interesting design chip. It's got 6 different locomotive sound files on it, and there's a CV, I think it's like CV39. You reprogram that, and it can be one of Class 20, Class 37, I think Class 47, Class 66/67. What else did it have? It had a first generation DMU, which I thought was potentially quite good. And just because you can, I did actually set this poor little 37. I went through all the different sounds that it could produce just to see what they're like, and actually they all sound pretty good to me. So I suspect they're using much the same sound files as the Hornby TTS chips. Certainly. All excuse me, all of the sounds bar the first generation DMU were ones which are also available as TTS, and the first generation DMU sounded a lot like an old Leyland Atlantean bus, but then again, as a lot of these first generation DMUs had Leyland engines, it probably is understandable. So actually my thoughts about them were, yeah, they're pretty good for the price. Not as cheap as Hornby TTS, but they come as a 21-pin version, which is quite useful for more recent locomotives. So it's just a plain, straight drop-in fit into a Class 37, a later Bachmann 37. No surgery required, no soldering required, except for the fact they don't come with speakers. So you have to get a separate speaker, and those wire too. There's some speaker points on the actual the PCB inside the locomotive. Pretty easy to do, actually, to be honest with you. And it sounded great, really did. Let's have a look down. Mark Jakes. Evening from Seattle. We'll be visiting folks in Manchester next week. Already got a shopping list for the Loco Shed Whitefield. Wow, could be an expensive trip. Don't forget, the trick is travel with empty suitcases coming out. It's something that my mother did once, a family holiday to visit relatives in Tampa Bay in Florida. And this was like, it must have been about 1994. And my parents travelled out with 2 big suitcases that were mostly empty. I mean, God knows what the baggage handlers or the people on the X-ray machine thought. But the idea was that, back then there was a much bigger price differential between stuff like clothing, sheets, towels, that kind of thing, with what you could buy them for the UK in the UK. You've got to remember, this is before the days of cheap online ordering. You had to go to department stores for a lot of this. So we went over there and they just bought all the stuff that we needed for the 2 weeks we were out there. So, like clothes and stuff. And, of course, then at the end of the holiday, we had the space in the suitcases to bring it all back. But certainly, Loco Shed in Whitefield, not been there for a very, very long time. I must go and visit, actually. But also this Arcadia in Shaw is one that a lot of people, and myself included, thinks really, really good. And also, if you can get over to Holton Lane Ends in Bolton, there's Holton Model Centre, and it's described by the Bachmann rep as one of the best kept secrets in the Northwest. And that's because he's got so much stock that he's had for quite a while that's like at the RRP as was 10 years ago. So you can buy Mark 1 coaches for 20 quid, or ventilated vans he had for £9, the ex-LNER ones. So certainly worth having a look there if you can get over there. Let's have a look. John Nutman, we'll have to go. I am at my local club, but I hope you have a great evening. Thank you. You have a great evening too. It's always good, actually, to... I've been to, as a guest of a couple of clubs, and it's always good fun to run stuff on massive layouts and, shoot the breeze with people. So it's certainly something that's, pretty good to do. Aaron Izzard, A up, Jenny. Do I need to do that with is it a Yorkshire or a Lancashire accent? Hey up, Jenny. How are things? Yeah, things are great, actually. Been hard at work. I ache all over. I've just had to scrub up ready for doing this. But just been up in the loft. And where am I up to in the loft? Oh, yes. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, we were talking about this before I got sidetracked. And where am I up to? Well, the loft is pretty much all lined out now. And to the point where when it got windy earlier on, I could hear the wind blowing over the roof, but there was no drafts or anything, which is great. And it's actually reasonably warm up there. And I've got the loft hatch is wide open at the moment, and it's not making the house cold because it's so well insulated up there. And we've actually found that the house itself is warmer, ironically, for doing this up in the loft. The Ecotherm type insulation, which is we're using the 2-inch thick stuff, and it's like this high density polyurethane foam, and then backed both sides with a very thin foil layer, and it's light as a feather, but it is really actually very efficient. Let's have a look. Aaron Izzard, just having a cherry coke with some chips. Oh, you're spoiling me. I'm still eating good, and I'll be honest with you, I really fancy some chips now. Chips with garlic mayonnaise. Let's have a look. What else we got? Dogger Ben Railway, CV123. I thought it was, I'm sure it was CV39, but might be different for different ones. I had the one for the diesel locomotives. I know they do some for steam locomotives as well. I'm talking about the slightly more budget chips that you can reprogram the sound. It's got the sound files hard on it, but you can choose which one you want. Dogger Ben Rowe. It's funny with my wife. Gas turbine is fitted with Soundtrax TUSME 2. When it's running, I change 123 to value of 0, and it sounds like an old truck. Oh right, yeah. I haven't, apart from the one that I've got, I haven't got any others, but I'd like to actually try one. I've got a Class 45, which I had a spare speaker, so I soldered the speaker in, and it's 21-pin locomotive, and I was toying with getting another one and trying to find. I'm told the Class 47 might be similar sound. Oh God, the purists won't like it. But, I'm doing this on a budget, people. Let's have a look. John Edwards. Hi, Jen. Brill, as usual. Thank you very much. Philip Page. Good evening, Jenny and everyone in the Jenny Monday Club. Oh, I like that. I'm going to run with that. The Jenny Monday Club. Hey there, everyone. It's like Saturday morning kids TV. For me, my era was Saturday Superstore was when I was an avid watcher. But you may have different from Swap Shop to Tiswas, Going Live, Live and Kicking, was that? I don't know, there's a thing. You're probably going to say, I was watching Magpie on the other side. Or, was it On the Waterfront? I remember that vaguely. I don't know why I was switching channels. Let's have a look. John Edwards, watching from Germany. Oh, grand, I love Germany. I love the food. Love the people. Love the architecture. Love the scenery. I think if I was told, I'm sorry, you're going to have to emigrate somewhere, pick your country, you're off. Germany is... I can't really decide between Sweden, Germany and Australia. Probably be my top 3 places that I'd quite happily emigrate to. I can't really decide which. Let's have a look. Philip Page, just been to Film Sherwood Forester at Wigan, got 466 in line as well. Oh, right. Cool. Let's have a look. Leslie Gilpin, chips with mayo, sounds Belgian. Yeah, it's very European, actually. Brits and Americans all drown their chips in tomato ketchup and mustard, that kind of thing. But I'm not. I hate tomato ketchup. I really do, which is weird, because when I was very, very young, sort of like 3, 4, 5 years old, I used to love tomato ketchup, and I would put it on everything. Now I can't stand the stuff. But when I was living out in Germany, I was living out in Bonn very briefly. I discovered mayonnaise on chips, and I love it. I really do. So I still have mayonnaise on chips, and actually the only thing better than mayonnaise on chips is garlic mayonnaise, or actually tartar sauce works really well on chips. Trust me, try it. It's really nice. Although curry is curry mayo. Oh, that's a new one on me. So you would just add mixed curry powder into mayonnaise. I'll have to try that. Let's have a look. Mark writes, "Hi Jen, please take care of glass fibres in the loft. Make sure you have a good face mask." Yeah, I've been wearing a face mask. The reason I'm coughing is brick dust. Not there's no fiberglass up there, actually, to be honest with you. The insulation that's up there, we put it in when we moved in. We had a little man out, and it was part of the Warm Homes grant. It didn't cost us a penny. It was brilliant. The guy just turned up. They put out like a foot of insulation everywhere, and then after he'd gone, me and my dad went down to B&Q and bought some more insulation, because my dad, back then, insulation was subsidised, so we were paying like £3 a roll, and my dad had his pensioners discount, so we got another 10% off that. Grand. Every little helps. Filled his van with insulation and put that out. So none of it is fiberglass. We don't have fiberglass insulation. It's actually recycled plastic bottles. I did wonder where they all ended up, but that's it. And some of it's like foil lined. But the actual room now, we've got a clean room. I keep needing to sweep it, actually, because it keeps getting dirty with the woodworking and stuff. But rest assured, I was using a breathing mask, and you can see the stuff on it, actually. It has done its job, but your snot still comes out looking like you've been on the London Underground. Let's have a look. Dogger Ben Railway. I love Australia. I really miss it. Live in USA now. Oh, interesting. Oh, so what made you move? It's, I presume work, but certainly Australia. I've never been there. Would love to go there. Everything I've seen about Australia makes me actually love the country. I think it's a great country from what I've seen. I love the attitude of the Aussies. They're my kind of people. I love their sense of humour. I love their outlook on life. So, I could quite happily go and live out there, and I wouldn't need to have to converse in a foreign language, because they speak a version of English. But I do speak a little bit of German, and strangely enough, Swedish, would you believe it, has some similarities with Broad Geordie. So it's odd, but having lived in the northeast, lived in Durham for a good number of years, I've come to realise that when you listen to somebody speaking Swedish, as long as you're very familiar with Broad Geordie, you can kind of pick out odd words. It's very peculiar. Let's have a look. John Edwards, and now of course using LGB Germany's Fabs food and because I love all the different German sausages and stuff, and frikadellen. Didn't like sauerkraut, but there's a lot of, it's very meat based. Meat and beer. Yes, nothing more than meat and beer. So I love that kind of food. Let's have a look. Alan Reynolds, loft bound 2, flooring completed, 6 metre out of 20 metres of layer. Also built using open frame. Oh gosh, you are making progress. I have yet to build any of the actual baseboards or anything. I'm going to be building them open frame, thin plywood, 6mm plywood is going to be the way to go. But let's have something running in the background. Let's see, there we go. Just very interesting, because who wants to see my ugly... Oh, good God, there we are. This, you've all seen that, actually. So let's just... you can see there's the mask I've been using. So, just... there we go. Right, let's have some trains running there in the background. Where was it? Ah, yes, meanwhile, back at the ranch. 6 metre out of 20 metres of layer, also built using open frame, using J-cloth and PVA as papier-mâché for landscape. Well, that's an interesting idea, actually. Yeah, I can see that working quite well. Yeah, the way of building landscape has changed over the years. I can remember when I was very young, people used to use chicken wire and plaster bandage, but now I'm going to use a method that Les Cliff extols the virtues of. You may remember Les Cliff. We did Through the Railway Room Door with him, and he uses the jab light, so I'm going to keep all the offcuts of the jab light, and I'm going to use that for making a lot of my landscape. Let's have a look. Fat Wallet Boy 2, mayo over the chips. Nah, but up for mayo next to the chips to dip into as the mood takes me. Possibly. Try tartar sauce. I have to say, tartar sauce, you know it makes sense. On chips, wonderful. It's like basically mayonnaise with that little bit of an extra zing. Hello to I Like Transport. Good to have you along. Scott Cameron, as a Yank, I rather prefer mayo on fries. At times even mixing a touch of ketchup with the mayo. That's Thousand Island dressing. So you could cut out the middleman and you can buy jars of Thousand Island dressing, which is just ketchup mixed with mayonnaise. Not a lot of people know that. The Irish Train Guy, hello to you. Leslie Gilpin, fries are chips that have been on a diet. Actually, possibly quite the reverse, because they retain an awful lot more of the oil. They're less healthy for you, even though they're thinner, but they are nice actually. Zoe's out at doing her local counsellor type work. She's due back about 8 o'clock, she said, or possibly finishing there at 8, so back by 7:30. So I'm going to send her a message. I'm going to see if she'll buy a couple of bags of chips on the way home. Let's have a look. Could you buy some chips on the way home? Really fancying chips and mayo and exclamation mark. And because I'm on a diet, we're gonna have a few smiley faces, because just because. There we go. Phone doing weird things. Whoa, there we go. Let's see. Oh, interesting. What went ding? Ding? Ding. Apparently nothing. I hate technology. Right, anyway, where are... Oh. Hold on a moment. Anywho, right, anyway, where was... people mithering me on the phone. Gravy train. Yeah, actually, chips and onion gravy is good. I Like Transport. Why is everyone talking about food? I don't know. What one person started talking about, they were eating chips and having a cherry Coke, and it made me feel really hungry. Mike. Hold on. Right, anyway, anywho, meanwhile, back at the ranch, why is there, CD UK, happy to, leave me alone. Happy Days, Top of the Pops, BBC 4. Oh, is that like, the, TOTP2, the, like, back on the rewind? Yeah, look-tastic, mate, yeah, smashy and nicey. Which is basically how Top of the Pops was when I actually used to watch it. I think it's a rite of passage, isn't it, growing up in the UK? There's a certain age where Top of the Pops is like must have guaranteed classic viewing. Everybody watches it. There's a certain age, so everybody remembers with some degree of fondness what Top of the Pops looked like when they were young. And I can remember when The Wizard by Paul Hardcastle, it's a track, look it up, was the theme music to Top of the Pops. That's pretty much the period when I was an avid consumer of Top of the Pops. Candy Corn, Eat Me. I Yeah, if you're made of chips with mayonnaise, then possibly. Philip Page, I make papier-mâché out of all my credit card receipts. See, I find that paper's it's a little bit odd. It's I don't know. I think that they're too small, in my personal opinion. Maybe you have massive receipts from buying lots of goodies, but actually, newspaper is probably it's certainly something I've used in the past. But I like the idea of using cheap J cloths. You can get them from like pound shops and stuff. Candy corn. I'm sweet and chewy. Oh, candy corn. Candy corn. Is that like popcorn? Philip Page, Wingate's Chippy, tell her. Oh, she's not down in West Horton at the moment, but yes, she knows about Wingate's Chippy, and she does speak very highly of it as well. Friday the 13th fans, do you like the Class 66? I'm not a Class 66 fan, to be honest with you. Let's just backpedal. Let's back that juggernaut up. The Class 66 seems a pretty solid locomotive, but I don't have much interest in the modern scene. And, if somebody gave me a Class 66, it would be like, oh, thank you. And I'd probably run it. I'd keep it, and I'd be happy with it. But it doesn't interest me. There's quite a few things that don't interest me. HSTs don't, and they're not a new thing. The Intercity 125, it's not something that tickles my fancy. Ridden on them a lot, certainly even going way back. I can remember going down to London on one, and that would be in about 1981, 82. And I remember the old original decor and the seats that with the armrests that you had to really contort yourself to get around and get in your seat. Looking back, they weren't the most comfortable. Warrington Train Spotter 2778. Hello, how are you doing? I'm doing grand, thanks. And comment above you. I know it's Arabic, but I don't speak or read Arabic, so it could be saying anything. But hello to you. I assume you're saying hello. Maybe you're saying something rude. I don't know. I would never know. I like transport. My phone goes ding for no reason sometimes. It's the first time actually mine's gone ding for no reason. Normally it's there to say that either a WhatsApp group that I'm a part of, a new post has appeared, or a text message has come through. Let's have a look. Francesco Pucci? Am I pronouncing that right? I'm not sure. Hello from Italy. I love Deltic. Yes, the Class 55 Deltic. Or possibly you mean the prototype Deltic. Certainly, both are great locomotives. They have a very, very interesting exhaust note because of their Napier Deltic engines. But I do like the prototype, actually. I've got one of the National Railway Museum's special editions that Bachmann did for them, which does differ in some degrees from the production version. And it's a great model. I love that model in the sort of French blue. Really is lovely. But the production Deltics as well. I've got 55020 Nimbus in BR blue. I did have 55002 in two-tone green, but in the sort of the farewell tour livery from the early 80s. So I had a tops number, but two-tone green. But I swapped that for my DCC setup, which... I actually think I got a good deal out of that. But yeah, the Deltic is one of those locomotives that has quite a good following because it has such a presence. And when you see it next to other locomotives, that is a huge thing, huge. Mark, ever go to car boot sales for trains as you get some at a great price sometimes? There is O-Gauge. I've heard it said, yes, and I've never had any luck. I occasionally do the booters with Zoe looking for her retro computer games. So let's have a look. I do keep showing these, but let's pick a random. Actually, if I make it full screen so you can see. Zoe collects these PlayStation 2 games for oldie worldy. they were making games for the PS2 from, well, certainly in the UK, from 2000 through to very, very late 2013. It's widely regarded as the most successful gaming console, pretty much. But she's trying to get a full collection of these, basically every single game that ever appeared in the PAL region. And obviously you have to do car booters, because sometimes it's the only way you can get hold of these things. But yeah, never found any model railway stuff. However, Derry, big friend of the channel, you've seen him quite a few times doing, showing me around things that I filmed so I can show to you guys. He is if you ever get to know Derry, if you ever move in the same circles as him, he's a great guy to know, because I have no idea where he gets it from, but he's able to source decent, fairly new model railway stuff at a fraction of the price that you pay even from like a second-hand shop. And so at the moment he's sourcing point motors and points for the big layout up in the loft, because I'm going to need so many of them. But if you should ever cross paths with Derry, that guy's worth his weight in gold for what he can find for you. Right, let's have a look. Hunts Heath Model Railway used to watch Top of the Pops and record the sound of my portable tape recorder. I never recorded Top of the Pops off the telly, but I did used to record the BBC Radio 1 Top 40 programme that was on, I think it was on a Sunday. And there was quite a trick to being hovering over the pause button to hit pause just before the presenter started talking, because you didn't want that I nearly said a rude word there. You didn't want that Wally talking all over your mixtape, and then you take it into school the following day, and you'd be playing it on your Walkman, and it was like, yay, I've got the top tunes. Let's have a look. Fat Wallop Boy 2, tartar sauce, absolutely, but then I'd want a nice piece of fresh melt in the mouth fish. Actually, oh yeah. The only trouble with fish from a fish and chip shop is that because my diet doesn't include a lot of fat, when I do try and have that, it makes me sick because there's just too much oil in it. Let's have a look. Dogger Bend Railway, what do you think of the Australian Steam Loco 3801? Not sure which one that is offhand, but I do like some of the Australian locomotives. It has to be remembered, actually, some of the locomotives, and we've talked a lot about the South Maitland Railways and the Richmond Vale Railway, things like the Robinson 8K. There was, I think it was 10 or 11 of those were sold overseas to that, and there was an awful lot of locomotives exported that were built by people like Bayer Peacock, Hawthorne Stevens, and people like that. So a lot of the locomotives that reached Australia are probably quite familiar to people from the UK, but the South Maitland Railway tank locomotives, I think they're built by Bayer Peacock. They're a lovely locomotive. But then I've also seen there's a festival that they do in Australia, certainly have done in the past, where they run 4 steam locomotives parallel in the same direction. I think it's in Melbourne. And that it sort of it brings the tears to your eyes with the emotion of seeing these 4 steam locomotives thundering along side by side. It's just an amazing sight. And I'd love to see somebody have the balls to do that and, get through all the red tape and the bureaucratic nonsense and run that up the East Coast Main Line where it's 4 tracks. Somebody just do it, because that would just be quality. 4 steam locomotives side by side thundering up the East Coast Main Line in the same direction. Or indeed, maybe for some kind of an anniversary thing, you could have an A4, an A1, a HST, and maybe a Class 91, all running parallel to each other, keeping pace with each other. And it's like the full story of the East Coast Main Line. And I think that would just be such a great sight. Somebody make it happen. It can't be that difficult to do if you put your mind to it. Let's have a look. Angus's Trains. Hi to you, Angus. Great to see you. We're just talking about Australian locomotives again. And I know there is a model of I think the Bayer Peacock South Maitland Railway tank locomotive. I've seen it advertised, but it is very expensive. It's quite a small Australian manufacturer that's done a run of them. I'd love to get my hands on one, but I think they're about the equivalent of £400-500. They're not cheap. Let's have a look. I like transport. Sorry, my Wi-Fi stopped working temporarily. I'm back now. Well, welcome back. Warrington Train Spotter 2778. You don't like modern railways. I take it you don't like the new Northern DMU and EMU that are running about at the minute being tested to replace the Pacers. It's not a case of hating them. It's just I have no interest in them. It's not something that, in terms of modelling, that I'd be particularly interested in. You know, I can't find any interest in post-privatisation railways, and if anything, even stuff like Class 60s, Class 92s, 91s, 90s, that kind of thing, even Class 58s, I don't have an interest in them. Let's have a look. Russell Benton, have you got a track plan in mind for the loft? Yes, I'm going to take the track plan of Tyne Yard. That is an ambitious thing, I know, but I'm going to use that as a starting point to model a marshalling yard. It won't be track perfect to Tyne Yard, but it will be heavily inspired by Tyne Yard. So if you can find yourself a track plan of Tyne Yard as it was, that's going to be my starting point. Now I have to pare it down, and obviously there'll be some quite tight 90-degree bends because it's got to go round, but as much of that as I can build, the better, including the TMD, things like that, the junction with the concert line and the 4-track main line going through. That's the plan. Let's have a look. Philip Page, I love the new 195, seen one at Wigan. Yeah, you know, I don't have any bother about actually riding on the things. You know, they're a very functional piece of transportation, but not in model form for me. Dogger Bend Railway, New South Wales, Green Streamlined 462. Yeah, I think that was one of the ones that took part in the 4 steam locomotives running parallel in the suburbs of Melbourne, I think it was. And it's a very beautiful locomotive, and certainly if the models were readily available at a reasonable price in the UK, I'd probably get myself some. Fat Wallet Boy 2. Jenny, you might have already said before, but just scrolled off the top. Can I? I can scroll. Friday the 13th fans, what are your thoughts on the new Blue Button model with 2 tenders that's coming out soon? It'll be really good. The A4 Pacifics are a great locomotive. I'll be honest with you, in model form, the Hornby model is excellent, outstanding. You'll pay a lot for it, but it's a good locomotive. Right, let's try and scroll down a little bit. Jenny, you might have already said before elsewhere, but haven't you got an era region in mind for the loft layout? Steam, diesel, electric, branch line, mainline, terminus. Now, as I said before, Tyne Yard on the lower level. An upper level will appear ultimately, but I'll build the lower level first. And I'm envisaging Kirby Stephen East in sort of like probably 1900 through to 1950s. So I can run everything from pre-grouping to BR era, and to be honest, BR Blue Diesels will get run on it as well. I'm not fussy, but the Tyne Marshalling Yard will probably mostly get run in the Tops Blue period. But you know, it's a marshalling yard. It'll double as my own fiddle yard, so there'll be all sorts sat on there from time to time. Right, let's see if I can get this back on track. Dogger Bend Railway. I met a girl from USA, and mother-in-law said, if you want to marry my baby girl, you've got to move him. I suppose there could be worse places you could move to. America is, despite the flaws, is a great country. You know, despite the current management, you know, there's a lot of good things about America. There's a lot of bad things too, but you know, you could argue there's bad things about most places. It's one of those things, you know. You got to take the rough with the smooth, I guess. But let's have a look. What's going on here? Dogger Bend Railway. I did a review on 10 class. Can I share the video? Yeah, if you want. I post it up in the comments. Hopefully it'll turn up. Yeah, go right ahead. Not a problem. Angus's trains, the 4 steam trains, was in the Hunter Valley for the 30th anniversary of Hunter Valley Steam Fest. Oh, right, so it was a one-off then. I thought that was something they did quite a lot. I saw the video of it, and it was very moving, actually. I did enjoy that. Friday the 13th fans, a suggestion for a model, if you don't have one, is a Battle of Britain, original, not rebuilt. Oh, the Spam Cam. I've got one of those from a Hornby one, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which one it is, but it's in the Southern Malachite Green. Let's have a look. Angus's trains, but it takes a lot of planning to do a 4-way steam train race. Yeah, definitely does, because at least 2 of those tracks are going to be normally used for going the other way, so they're not actually signalled. Effectively, you're wrong line working with no signalling, so you'd have to do it on a day where trains weren't really running anyway, and effectively you'd be manually signalled. So you got to be doing it by the seat of your pants. The line would be set for you, but there'd be no signals, and you'd have a predetermined end point, as it were, I guess is how they do it. Friday the 13th fans, do you like the Q6? Yeah, I do, actually. It's a good model, the Hornby model. I've got one. I fitted it with a TTS sound. It is, I like it. Angus's trains, Australia model trains are expensive. I guess it's kind of a niche market. There's a lot of people in Australia, but how many of them are building model railways, or more importantly, Australian outline model railways? We're starting to see it go very much that way here in Britain, in that the prices are going through the roof, and that's making it more and more of a niche area, unfortunately. And of course, it becomes this sort of self-defeating thing. You've got less people buying because the prices have gone up, so the manufacturers put the prices up because they're not making enough money, and so less people end up buying into the hobby. It's bad, yeah. Where does it end? I don't know. But unfortunately, yeah, Australia, you've got some very expensive models, and it must put a lot of people off modelling Australian outline stuff. But the prototypes that you have are great models. Now, it could be argued that you could model something like the Richmond Vale Railway by importing the 00 models of the Bachmann Robinson 8K and repainting them, detailing them yourself, and effectively modelling 00 rather than HO, or sort of fudge the scales. But then you'd have to be, I suppose, finding UK outline prototypes that had counterparts that were sold and used in Australia. Now, a lot of the private builders did build locomotives for the Australian market. Excuse me, I know English Electric did build some of the Class 8 derivatives for Victorian railways, for the state of Victoria. So there are certain models that would pass across, but I think it's one of those things that I suppose it's like if you model Swedish or Danish railways, you come up against the same problems. Let's have a look. Chorley Junction. I love to see the A4s and LMS Duchesses do that run. Actually, yeah. LMS Duchesses on the East Coast Main Line. Actually, yeah, you could do like the big 4. So you could have an A4 Pacific. You could have a Duchess. You could have a Great Western King or a Castle. And a Southern Railway. What would you have? Battle of Britain, Merchant Navy class. Yeah, actually, that might be quite nice. So that you'd have a Southern Railway train, a London and North Eastern Railway train, and London, Midland and Scottish train, and which one did we miss out? Great Western Railway train. That'd be. There's a lot of things you could do. Dogger Bend Railway, Angus trains, have you heard? 3801 for this year be finished. Yeah. Alright, so is it currently undergoing restoration? Cool. Tyne Yard, wow. What do you need all those point motors? Russell Benton, yeah, definitely. I've got Derry, great fan of the of Derry, as I said before, and he's good friend of the channel. He's looking out for the stuff for me, and as I said before, if you end up moving in the same circles as Derry, if you get to know him enough that you can ask him to look out for stuff for you, then he is worth his weight in gold. Right, let's have a look. Warrington Train Spotter 2778. If you want to move to America, wait until Trump's gone. He's turned into a cesspit. Yeah, a lot of people say the same about Theresa May. To be honest, a lot of people say the same about all prime ministers in the UK. Now, just give me one moment. I need to go and I'm going to go and shut the loft hatch. It's starting to chill down, and I don't know whether it's because the loft hatch is open. I'm just going to go and fix that. Enjoy the trains. Back in a moment. It turns out I can't close the loft hatch without going up there, unplugging all the electrics, because I've got an extension cable hanging down. So I'll just shut that door a bit. I need to light the fire, actually. We haven't used our central heating in about 4 days, and that just shows you how good the insulation is in this house. That in 4 days, and you know, I should actually just put a better top on. This is quite a thin summer top. Maybe I should get a cardigan. I don't know. But, yeah, let's have a look. Andrew Keeley, UK trains are a lot cheaper here in the US without that 20% VAT. Yeah, definitely. And that applies as well as if you're buying UK outline trains, you know, if you're in Australia, for example, so you could import those Robinson 8Ks, especially as Hatton's, other retailers are available, but Hatton's has got a Robinson 8K in, well, actually, no, it's not Robinson, it's the 3000, the GWR 3000 class that the Great Western Railway bought the War Department ones that were surplus. £59, I think it is. So, generally speaking, lose that 20% VAT. And that covers your cost of carriage. So you could have that out to Australia for about, you know, basically about the equivalent of £60. You can't say better than that. Let's have a look. Friday the 13th, fans. That is a gorgeous livery. I have BR Green Wilton. I presume you're talking about something that was on the screen. I'm not sure what that was. But certainly, I don't know why. How has that video got into the just give me one moment. Let's go with that one. Oh yeah. Bloomin' adverts, eh? How dare they make me money? Right. Just, you know, no big secret. It's just what happens. Let's have a look. They also did a 3-way steam train race in 1988 for the bike. But I presume the bicentenary, I think also autocorrect has gone and messed you up there. It's bicarbonate of Australia in Melbourne. Yeah, the bicentenary of Australia. Yeah, certainly Australia. There's my mouse pointer. In Australia, I think you've got people with more nous to actually do all the paperwork and stuff and actually make things happen. Over here it'd be health and safety nonsense. Oh, there's my Battle of Britain. You just saw a glimpse of it in the background there. Friday the 13th fans, also, do you like Class 8s? Oh, do I? I love Class 8s. I've got about 15 of them in model form. So, yes, Gronks, I love me Gronks. Or as Zoe would say, Gronk, Gronk, Gronk. Oh, me poor Hatsies. Because to her, a Gronk is a character in Strontium Dog, which is a comic strip in 2000 AD. Angus's Train, search 1988 Bicentennial Race, Steam Train Melbourne. Yeah, I have seen some of those. They're on YouTube and they are really good. Yeah, same for the 206 Hunter Valley Steamfest race. Yeah. Philip Page, the Southern Railway Terrier. Yeah, again, the Hornby X Daypole Terrier. I've always liked that model, and I don't think it's too bad a model. I know it's a massive compromise, but it has to be said that it's not a bad model, and I'm waiting with interest for the Hornby retooled example. I suspect that the older model will go into the railroad range. Hopefully that means it will become very affordable. But yeah, it's the model that keeps on giving in terms of liveries. It's pretty good. Let's have a look. Dogger Bend Railway. Don't you mean the brown coal line? The Richmond is the provided line. Yeah, I bow before your knowledge. Yeah, that's the one. I think, Richmond Vale is the preserved line. You know the line I mean. Angus's train. Search 3801. Yes, did know. Right, yeah. Cranky Chris, sounds like the exchange trials with the big 4 locomotives. Yeah, I think it would be a great scene. It would certainly be a very memorable moment. Chorley Junction, going to have to love and leave, off to work, so bye for now. Oh, well, you have yourself a good night at work, and it's been great having your company. I hope to see you next week, 7 o'clock, GMT. It's Shed Chat Live, here with me, Jenny Kirk. Always good to have you. I'm getting quite drunk here. This wine is deceptively strong, and it has to be said, I'm probably a little bit dehydrated. I've drunk like 2 litres of fizzy water up there. Whilst I've been working, but I haven't stopped all day. So, whoa, careful not to spill that all over the keyboard. I think Zoe would kill me. Alright, anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch. Let's have a look. Can you search Hunter Valley Steamfest? Okay, let's give it a whirl. Right, where's the pause button? Pause button, right. So let's go to Google is our friend. Google, and what are we looking for? Hunter Valley Steamfest. Hunter Valley Steamfest. So, looking at Wikipedia, one of the major events in New South Wales steam locomotive season, one of the major events held in Maitland in the Hunter region. Held over 2 days in April, usually attended by steam locomotives from the Canberra Railway Museum, Powerhouse Museum, and Trainworks Railway Museum, and rail motors from the Rail Motor Society. First held in 1986. Right. Locomotives that have attended. Yes, the South Maitland Railway has a big tank locomotive. I do love those. As I said before, there are models of them, but they're very expensive. Oh gosh, I didn't know that Flying Scotsman had attended in 1989. I suppose it makes sense, because Flying Scotsman went coast to coast straight across America. Well, it did America as well, but went across Australia. Right. Dogger Bend Railway. My video link didn't show up. Interesting. I don't know whether... I'll have a look, see if it's... No, you're right. I don't know whether... Maybe you can't post links in the chat. Interesting. I'm sorry about that. It must be a limitation of the chat. I'm not sure how to get around that. Let's do Hunter Valley Steamfest. I bet that Hunter Valley Steamfest. I'm always very careful. I don't like to show other people's videos too much because, copyright reasons, blah 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 blah. But let's have a look at the Hunter Valley Steamfest 2016. This is what I'm talking about, people. Watch this. Find the original on YouTube. Give them some traffic. But this, it always, you can feel the hackles on the back of your neck rising. This is incredible, what you're seeing on your screen now. I'd love to be there, love to ride on one of these. And this is what I'd love to see happen on the East Coast Main Line. Somebody make it happen, because this is an incredible sight. So we've got, I can see, is that a Garrett? Yeah, it's a Garrett there on line 2. That one on line 1 actually reminds me a lot of German locomotives. But that is incredible. I mean, look at that. That is just... I'm almost lost for words. To see that is just incredible. And, you know, hats off to the people who organised this, because at least 2 of those trains are wrong line working. So, you know, somebody has done an awful lot of paperwork to make this happen, but they made it happen. You know, and it just goes to show it's something that perhaps we've lost in this country, is the can-do attitude that makes stuff like this able to happen. I mean, this would just be incredible to be there, to experience this. The one on line 2 is an America's train. Yeah, I know there's certainly some. Oh, actually, there's diesels on the back. I suppose they have to have the diesels just in case of issues. But this must be at the point that because all the lines come together. But I'd have certainly loved to have experienced something like that. But I've got to be careful. I can't show too much of other people's videos because I might get into trouble. But certainly look that up on YouTube. I don't know whether I can actually. I'll see if I can. See, Command Copy. Can I actually say something in the Command V? I don't know. Is that actually come up? Can people see that link? That's the link to the YouTube video that I just had up and running. So if you want to go and have a look at that video, do give them the traffic. I don't want to get into trouble through showing the video and denying the original channel the traffic, but certainly that is a sight to behold. Let's have a look. What else have we got? Look up Dogger Bend 10 class review. You'll be able to see it. Okay, yeah. Let's have a look. So, Dogger Bend 10 class review. See if we can get that up. It's that Dogger Bend Railway. So if I go to your channel and let's have a look. Where are we looking? Let's have a look. I should be able to search 10 class review. Alright, there we are. Right, so anybody wants to go and have a look at that, you should be seeing it on the screen there. I'm wanging you. Dogger Bend Railway. Wanging, by the way, is a web term where you basically a site that has a lot more traffic than another site mentions it, name checks it, provides a link to it, and you end up with the traffic going through the roof. Hopefully I can do that for you. So there you go. There's some interesting locomotives there, actually. I do quite like the Australian locomotives. They are beautiful, beautiful things. Yeah, is that Oz Train? I can't quite read the manufacturer, but yeah, some beautiful locomotives there. Yeah, grand, brilliant. I'll have a look at them in a bit. But right, what was I going to? Yeah, comments. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, right. Angus's trains. I was on the Garrett. Oh gosh, so that video with the 4 trains, you were riding on the Garrett on line 2. Brilliant. Cool. I like transport. Click on top chat and select the lower option. Live chat is the other option, and it shows links. We're supposedly it is set up for live chat. Yeah. Live chat. It must be something that Zoe set up. Can people actually see the link that I posted? In fact, yeah, cool. Let's if I go back to here, okay, I should be able to. Let's go back. Give me one moment. Hopefully, right. I don't know whether can anybody see the links that I've posted. It may let me post links, but possibly It's so we'll have to got your link right, grand. Right, I've posted up a link there for that 10 class review, so good on you. That's there if people want to go and have a quick look. And also you can save the link and watch it after the live chat. No problem, Doggerben Railway, anytime. Brilliant. I'm interested myself, actually, because I do find a lot of the Australian outline locomotives pretty grand. If money were no object, if space were no object, Australian Railways is something that I wouldn't mind modelling. South Maitland Railway, that kind of thing. I just like the look of the locomotives. Maybe it's the novelty value because I don't see them every day. But yeah, certainly. Right. Let's just go back and have a look at some of the other comments. Doggerben Railway, 59 class, 282, 60 class Garrett, 484, 484, 32 class, 460, and a 36 class 460. Grand. Friday the 13th fans, how do you feel on Hornby releasing a blue model of the Flying Scotsman? I presume that at some point it's quite possible that the Flying Scotsman was painted in BR Experimental Blue. So actually I think it's a nice variety. There's no point in re-releasing it over and over again in the same livery. So having it in a different livery, yeah, good on Hornby. Yeah, it's not one that I'll be buying most likely, but yeah, I think there's a lot of people who will. So yeah, grand. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Right. Chat. Angus's Trains. Can you go to Angus's Trains? Okay, yeah, I'm game. Let's have a look. Let's go to YouTube. And let's have a look. Angus. Gotcha there. Cool. Right. I will post a link up. So let's have a look. Angus's Trains channel. Brilliant. Let's have a look. Cooking with Angus. Oh, right, you do cooking as well. Ah. Ha ha. Hunter Valley Steam Fest 2013. Wow. Oh, right. Right. That actually reminds me of, that's like a cross between a BT well tank and a J69. Cool. There's some nice locomotives there. Ah, triple header. Wow, brilliant. I'm impressed. Angus, good man. This is some good stuff. That is some nice stuff. I've posted the link up there, so hopefully everybody's seeing that link. So if you want to go and have a look, have a peruse, there's some good stuff here. Oh, wow. I do like... What's the weird... it almost looks like a tank car. I presume it's full of water that's behind the three locomotives. That is a nice logo. I do like them. Oh, we're just going to let the cat out. They are nice. Angus, that is grand. Right. I'm just going to go back to... It's just... I'm trying to find... Aha. I need to talk about these, actually, in a moment. Basically, Daypol has had a few new announcements. So I've done Oxford Rail, I've done Bachmann, I've done Hornby. Hornby was a good one. But I want to talk a bit in a bit about some of the new announcements from Daypol. But let's have a look. Am I down to the... For some reason... Ah, there we go. Hello. No Way Jerk. Hi from the States. PA. Is that Pennsylvania? PA. Or is PN Pennsylvania? Oh, could that be my chips? Did I leave the other camera in the office? So I'm being tasked with... Ah, yes. Sorry, just... Sorry, just basically asking where this camera is. because she's managed to leave it. Right. Sorry, if I don't check that. There we go. Right. Let's have a look. Philip Page, please look at my channel. Lots of trains. I can't just keep looking at lots of people's channels. Look, right. Maybe next week. I've got to limit this because otherwise I'm going to run out of time. But oh, no way joke. Pennsylvania. I thought it was. I always get thrown by the abbreviations for the states in America. I know that American school kids would probably have it drummed into them and could probably list off all the states alphabetically, but we never learn that sort of thing in the UK. So I'm sort of flying by wire. Pennsylvania. Let's have a look. Angus's trains. Can you go to the Bluebell Railway session? Bluebell Railway session. I need to get onto the Daypol stuff. So I've posted the links for the channels there. I'm gonna take a look in a bit. But let's have a look. Angus Train, can you say the tank car has water? Yeah, yeah. Why not? Let me just I've got to like There you are. 27th subscriber. Let's get back to where's the meanwhile back at the ranch. Right. Angus's Trains. Tank car has water. I thought it would be. Doggerben Railway. It's a water gin. Right. It makes sense, to be honest. Yeah. Friday the 13th fan. Please, could you have a look at my YouTube page? I'm gonna have to leave that till next week. I'm really sorry, but I have to crack on. I've had a look at a couple of people. I will give priority next week, next Monday, starting at 7 GMT. First couple of people coming in, getting there first. I will take a look, but I've got to move on, I'm afraid. D827 Kelly, good to have you along. Not that many announcements from Daypol that I can recall beyond the extra run of B4s. There are some, actually. I've had a look. But let's have a look. Yeah, right. Anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch and all that. There are new liveries announced of the London and South Western Railway B4 Class 040 tank. Now, I've got one of these. I did a full box opening and review of it. It's being featured, I think, in a Trains Going By video. I've got the London and South Western Railway pea green livery. Yeah, I like transport. I will, if you, next week on Monday, remind me. Oh, what was that? Oh, it's next door, being noisy. Next week, if you get in nice and early, 7 o'clock GMT, remind me and I will take a look. I promise that. Hand on heart, will do that. But the London and South Western Railway B4 class, I've got the London and South Western Railway pea green livery with the LSWR on the tanks. It's a lovely model. It's scored really highly. It really is a great model from Daypol. I can well recommend it. But they've got some new liveries released. We've got the BR Late Crest livery there. We've got a new BR Early Crest livery. But then we've got two different southern ones. And these two really tickle my fancy. Now, we've had Caen, C-A-E-N, in this sort of like a maroon colour, and what it appears, and I must look into this, it seems that every single one at Southampton Docks may have got a different colour, because we've got let's just see, apparently that's as good as we can get. Oh, it says new body variants as well. I suspect that's the cab, but we've got Guernsey, and I can't actually quite read what that is, in sort of like a yellowy colour. The yellow one, actually, it looks really interesting. From memory, I think that's a private owner livery when it's been sold out of service to industrial use. But certainly, I'm looking forward to them. I do like these colourful liveries, so I'm going to look out for them. Why am I, for some reason? Oh, I know. It's opened it in a new window. That's why. So yeah, definitely this is a good model, and it has to be said, I am very much looking forward to it. I don't know why I've ended up on RM Web, because I'm sure I was on the Daypol website. But this is the other announcement. The double O gauge telescopic hood wagons on tops as the KIA, built in Germany in 1979, and these are the ones that are for like steel coil and slab, but they have the telescopic roofs, which make protecting the load very, very effective. And it looks to me, looking at this, that the sliding telescopic roof is actually functional. That is really interesting, actually. I'm interested to see that when it turns up. It's not a wagon, even though dating from 1979, it should theoretically fit within the timescale that I model. That is certainly an interesting wagon. So we've got highly detailed body moulding with sliding roof and body section, many separately added components and etched details. Comes with steel coil loads already attached, accurately applied livery, NEM pockets, profiled wheels. So we're looking at an RRP of 5 pence under 30 quid. Expected in shops end of Q3, so that's probably around sort of end of August, beginning of September. That will push back because it always blooming well does. But yeah, that looks interesting. Certainly not my cup of tea, but if it's your cup of tea, that's an interesting wagon there from Daypol. Let's have a look. In terms of other things, we've got an announcement that... Oh, come here, you. An announcement that the HST-P project, this is the prototype HST, sometimes referred to as the Class 41. It's the second Class 41, but it's the original version of the HST, the prototype. Looks like that's going ahead. In terms of anything else, the O-gauge wagons, 9-foot chassis wagons available now. Interestingly enough, that is the London and South Western Railway B4 livery that I've got, that I've done the review on. This, I wish it would stop just randomly flicking. But yeah, that's what we've got coming out from Daypol. So certainly modern image models. Certainly got some interesting stuff there. Not a huge announcement. It's probably more along the lines of the Oxford Rail announcements. But certainly I'm looking forward to these liveries of the B4 class. I'm actually getting really drunk here because I'm on an empty stomach, which is never a good idea, and I'm dehydrated. So if I'm talking rubbish, that's why. Hey kids, don't do alcohol because it turns you into a buffoon like me. Right, anyway, meanwhile, let's see. Friday the 13th fans, I don't know if you would care about this fact, but I'm a 1-star Army cadet. Oh, good for you. I was actually in the Sea Cadets a long time ago. I then, carried over. I worked there as staff for a long time. But I'm a big supporter of cadet services. I think that they provide a great service to giving kids a sort of a structured environment where they can learn new skills, meet new people, and really kind of develop in and of themselves. So I'm always a big supporter of all the cadet services. In the UK, we've got the Sea Cadets, which also includes the Marine Cadets. We've got the Air Cadets, the Air Training Corps. We've got Army Cadets, and we've also got CCF, which is the Combined Cadet Force, which tends to be a school-run thing. And certainly I've got lots of time for all of those. No Way Jerk, 79, wow, very modern looking. Yeah, actually it is. For 1979, that is quite, if it had said, like from 2005, you'd have gone, yeah, it looks the part. D827, Kelly, did you see the Class 92 and CAF Mark 5 announcements from Accurascale? Yeah, I did see about those. I'm interested to see them when they turn up. That oh, excuse me, I'm getting hiccups now because I'm that drunk. It's not something that I'll be getting for myself. It has to be said, but it is something that let's just. I've managed to lose the video that I was playing in the background. That's somewhat incompetent of me. So let's go back to. I think I need playlists. Just bear with me a moment. I need something on in the background because I'm starting to hiccup a lot, which is. There we go. Let's pick that one. There we go. Yeah, but where were we? Meanwhile, meanwhile back at the ranch. I like transport, nice wagons. I wish model railways were cheaper. Don't we all? Amen to that. I remember the good old days. We didn't know that they were the good old days at the time. But looking back through the old rose-tinted goggles, they were back in the sort of 15, 20 years ago when production shipped out to China for the first time and the prices were like, wow, great models for fairly inexpensive prices. They were the good old days and I'd love them to return. Angus's Trains, bye. Thanks for the show. Bye, got to go to school, swimming carnival. Well, good luck to you. Have a good swimming carnival, and hopefully see you here again next week, 7 o'clock GMT. Not sure what time it is with you. I know that I think you're technically in tomorrow. Well, obviously you're existing at the same moment in time as the rest of us, but in terms of date, you're in tomorrow's date. Obviously because other side of the planet, and it's amazing, isn't it, that we can. All chat like this in real time, and yet we're all around the globe. Right, D827 Kelly, is that HST prototype N or double O? Oh, I've moved off the page. I suspect, knowing Dapol, it will be both. They'll make an N gauge model and a double O gauge model, would be my guess. Friday the 13th fans, Jenny, do you know how to make coal loads? Because I need to make some for my wagons. The way I do it is Parkside Dundas do an insert coal an inserted coal piece that fits into various types of wagons. The MEA they do it for, the HEA they also do it for, and the MXV MCO, the 16-ton mineral wagon, they do one for that. That provides quite a good base. They're quite cheap. You can pick them up. There's something like £5 for £1 or something stupid like that. If you see them at shows, I'm sure they'll do mail order. But what you can do is you coat them with white glue and then sprinkle coal dust on it. And you can get a really good effect with that. So that's what I would recommend. The other option is you can cut a piece of something like polystyrene or Jablite, that kind of thing, to fit in your wagon. And again, white glue over the top of it, sprinkle coal on, and you've got a fairly easy to insert coal load. If you put something like a metal bolt into it, glue it into it, you can use a magnet to get it out. Top tip for you there. Let's have a look. Graph B, the prototype HST temporarily ran with a Mark 1 in its formation. Something different. I didn't know that actually, but that's quite interesting. I'll have to look into that. AD Pullen, hi Jenny. After one of your videos, I went and pre-ordered a Terrier Stepney from Hornby. Yeah, I'm glad that I was of help there. It's certainly something that I'm looking forward to. The Hornby Terrier. I know that Rail Stroke Dapol are also doing one, but the Hornby one, it will be good because they know that they're competing with the Rails Dapol one. But the price is a lot keener, and price it smooths over a lot of wrinkles. In all honesty, all right. Let's have a look. D827 Kelly. Interesting as Rapido were working on a double O gauge version, but paused it. Still not officially cancelled. Yeah, it's a bit like Bachmann were working on a VEA van. As far back as about 2002 and 2003. It was never officially cancelled, but has more recently reappeared in their announcements. So yeah, I guess that sometimes these things, for whatever reason, get put on hold, and maybe get cancelled, maybe come back later on. I like Transport. I think the prototype HST is just N, but I'm not totally sure. You're probably right, actually. I know that Dapol tend to major on N gauge, although more recently they've started to do a lot with O gauge as well. 00, they've got some great models, like the B4 is a good one. I'm told the Class 68 is a good model as well. But 00 tends to not be their main thing. D87 Kelly, just check the Dapol website. It is N-gauge. Right, no problem. I stand corrected. Yeah, but it may appear in 00. They may expand it to 00 as it was. So I like Transport. I recommend the polystyrene version. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people use that, and it is quite effective, especially if you glue, you sort of insert and glue a metal nut in there, and then you can pull it out very easily with a magnet. Model Train Fan 101. Hey Jenny, I recommend you get the Hornby TTS Sound BR Blue King. It's a beautiful model. I've got a green shirt button GWR King. I can't remember which King it is off the top of my head, but I've got the TTS in that. It's quite easy to fit the TTS yourself. I've done a number of videos. If you look in my channel, I've got some how-to guides on how to fit TTS chips to various locomotives. And it also has to be said that as I'm doing the box opening and reviews now with locomotives, when I'm doing the Hornby locomotives, I'm also adding on a quick how-to guide for adding the TTS sound to those. So well worth a look. D87 Kelly, they've cancelled the Pressflow wagon, if I remember correctly, Bachmann. Yeah, it's the Prestwind Silo, which is a shame, really, because it's a CQV Prestwind Silo. I was really looking forward to that wagon because I had the Hornby 00 wagon. I still do somewhere. And I would have loved to have seen that in 00. So hopefully they might reintroduce it maybe next year or the year after. Andrew Keeley, Rapido can be quite erratic. Yeah, I know that the National Railway Museum Stirling single did overrun and take a phenomenal length of time. It has now been delivered. It's a great model. But yeah, Rapido, they promise big and take a little while longer than they thought to deliver them from time to time. Yeah, D87 Kelly, 00 gauge is the lowest of their interest in some respects. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and it may have something to do with the fact that they kind of had to give up a lot of their 00 gauge to Hornby when the big fire at, I think it was Chirk, happened at their factory, and they had to generate cash. They sold a load of moulds to Hornby, and they were a lot of their 00 models, and it may be a legacy of that. I like Transport. The Class 68 is a great model, and the DRS compass livery is done very nicely. It even has a UK map inside the compass. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about the Class 68. It's not something that personally interests me, but if it's your bag, it's a good model by all accounts. Let's have a look. D827 Kelly, look up Wolf27 on RM Web. He's been doing a resin and brass conversion from the standard HST. Yeah, I must admit the HST is not something that personally interests me, but certainly there's some good projects on RM Web. Friday the 13th fans, Jenny, how much do you like the Class 37? Yeah, I've got 3 Class 37s in my collection. I had a fourth one. I had Loch Rannoch in large logo, full yellow ends blue, but I swapped that with Brian, actually, of all people, and then he went and sold it. So it's like, what, you asked for it, we did a deal, and then you sold it. What's that all about? But hey, yeah, Class 37s, I do quite like them. I wouldn't say they're my favourite class of locomotives, but I've nothing against them. The sound chips I've got, the Hornby TTS is all right, but the Digitrax sound chip is very, very good, I have to say. D827 Kelly, supposed to be a UK diesel to be produced by Rapido, but not yet announced. Yeah, you do wonder. They love to drop these sort of hints. And it's like, it's almost like a game, isn't it? It's like, for God's sake, just tell us what you're planning. What is the problem with just telling us? Right, oh, that is... So, a cheeky red, this. South Africans, I salute you. You know how to do a good red. And it's fairly inexpensive, actually, that. I've got some more work to do up in the loft later on. I suspect that I shouldn't go back up there because I'm slightly drunk now. This is really embarrassing. Never mind. Oh gosh, that's an early video. Patreon, kids, it's out there. Don't forget that you can support the channel on Patreon. And I apologise if I'm starting to get really random. But yeah, alcohol, kids, don't do it. It really goes to your head on an empty stomach. Yeah, Angus's Trains, it's not alcohol free, I have to say. Hold my hands up. It was what was left over. I had a couple of glasses yesterday, so yeah. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, Andrew Keeley, if Rapido announced it today, it would be in stores within the next 5 years. Yeah, they're a bit like Bachmann in that respect. They are real demons for announcing stuff and then taking forever. Bachmann do the same. It's why I like Hornby, because Hornby tend to announce stuff late in the development and doing phase. So you get examples like, for example, the Duchess of Montrose that was in the Hornby 2019 new announcements. I've already done the box opening and review because it's arrived within a week or so. And I like that. No messing about, no waiting. That is one thing that Hornby has got right. And I do wish that the other manufacturers would take out a leaf out of Hornby's book in that respect. No way, Jerk. Random is okay. Thanks for sharing, Jen. Tartil later. Yeah, no problem. I think I'll probably go alcohol free next time, or at least have my chips and mayonnaise. Where is she? She's supposed to be picking up chips or something from the chippy on the way back. It's because I haven't eaten a lot today. I've done a lot of work. I've probably a little bit dehydrated. And alcohol on a somewhat empty stomach does tend to go to your head very, very quickly. Vampira, hi to you too. Good to have you along. Friday the 13th fans, do you prefer freight or passenger trains? I have to say freight trains every time. I think there's so much more of interest with freight trains. Doesn't mean that I don't run passenger trains, as you're seeing on your screen. I do run a lot of passenger trains as well. But I love freight trains, it has to be said. And in fact, the freight train that you're going to be seeing on this video, if I remember correctly, is huge. It's currently majoring on the passenger train, but the freight train that's going around is something like 76 wagons long. It's I think freight rolling stock is great. There's so much more of interest. Angus's Trains, what is it with chips and mayo? That's what you get when you don't drink water. It's one of those things. There's a big joke in the UK. I don't know whether it moves to other countries, but it's like, how do you tell when somebody's drunk? They fancy a doner kebab. Now, a doner kebab, when you're sober, the general rule of thumb is they're referred to as the sweaty elephant's foot of doom, because when you see them in the shop, they're like on this big spit and they circle round, and it's disgusting when you think about it. But when you're drunk, it's like, oh yeah, I really fancy a doner kebab. But when you're sober, you're like, hey, no, we're not going to go near that. Graph B, I must admit I prefer freight trains too. Yeah, I think there's so much more of interest with freight trains. D827 Kelly, gotta go, bye for now. Bye to you, it's been great to have you along. Hopefully see you again next Monday. Philip Page, wait till you see my 466s with an engineering train. Will be on my channel soon. Now, do you have sound for them? Because there is TTS sound you can get for a 66. I do know that. And the TTS chips, I have to say, it's another area that Hornby have got absolutely right, and that is the TTS sound. Really is good. Vampira, my grandfather worked on the railroad when they still had steam locomotives in my country. He gave me my first model train when I was a little kid. Yeah, I mean, my first model train was actually from my father. It was his trains from when he was young. I had 3 locomotives. I had a Class 28 Metrovic, a Hornby 001, a standard Class 4 264 tank, number 80054, and an N2. The Hornby 00N2, as everybody knows, is sort of like vaguely but not quite anything in particular, but notionally an N2. I had 69567 in BR. Let's have a look. Oh, Graf beer, dodgy cheeseburger. Oh God, I could murder a cheeseburger right now. I think it's greasy food is what you fancy when you're drunk. I don't know why. Let's have a look. Friday the 13th fans. How much money do you think you've spent on your collection? I spent over £1,000 with only 20 locos. It's easily done. And right, top Jenny tip: never add up how much you spent. Never, just don't do it. It ain't worth it. It ain't worth it. Because if you do add up everything that you've spent, it will be an horrific amount of money. Unfortunately, I've been collecting this sort of stuff for 20 years now. And over those 20 years, I know that I've spent a lot of money, and the actual value of some of these things, it's no secret. My house insurance, I have the contents of my house insured for £100,000, and part of the reason for that is because a large chunk of that is the model railway. And what you've got to remember with insurance, it's not about having somebody rob you. If somebody robs you, they'll get away with like £5,000-6,000 worth of stuff. What you're insuring yourself against is, you think to yourself, if there was a catastrophic house fire and everything was destroyed, that's what you're insuring for. So for me, £100,000, and I'll be honest with you, if this place burnt to the ground and there was nothing left, £100,000, it would all get spent on what's in here, because this ain't a cheap hobby, I have to say. But yeah, don't count the money. You will just shock yourself how much you've spent. Philip Page, real trains, Jenny. Yeah. If money were no object, I would certainly. It's something I've said quite a few times before. The notion of buying a couple of miles of disused railway line, maybe with a station as well, relaying it, and actually having your own train to play with. I can imagine it's a maintenance liability and a half. Because what do you do if you the engine on your Class 37? You put a leg out of bed. What the hell are you gonna do? And if it derails, and how are you going to get it back on the track? The mind boggles. But the actual idea of having your own private railway is grand. Angus's trains. I feel nervous for swimming. I don't feel nervous. You're going to do great. I know you are. So you just get stuck in. It's going to be fine. Don't worry about it. And it's something that I've always found with so many things that I've done. I mean, in my life, I spent a number of years. I was the stand-in radio DJ for BBC Newcastle and BBC Cleveland, and you get really scared when you think about oh my God, I'm doing I used to do the stuff that nobody else wanted to do. So 2 a.m. till 6 a.m. the graveyard shift. But you're a radio presenter. You're on air, and you had an audience. And the best thing to do is to not dwell on the fact, and you'll be fine. I know you will be. Friday the 13th fans, please read my last question. Okay. How much money do you think you have spent on your collection? Right. So Friday the 13th fans, can you go and grab one of the Class 37s because I want to see one of the liveries? Okay, stay right there. Right, I've actually got two of my blimmin' bits falling off already. Another top tip: try not to handle your trains too. If you get a little bit drunk, do try to avoid handling the stuff too much, because no matter how much you're trying to be careful, when you're slightly drunk, it becomes quite difficult. Let's see now. Let's see. Right. Liveries of Class 37s. That's the BR Blue small logo. So you can see it's got the yellow ends, but it's mostly blue, and there's the very small BR double arrow. This one is sound fitted with the Digitrax decoder, the one that you can program between about 6 different locomotives. It sounds great, it has to be said. I'm just going to carefully put that there. And here's one of my other Class 37s in regional railways, and I do have a soft spot for two sectorisation liveries that I have a real soft spot for. Intercity mainline livery, Intercity Swallow livery, sometimes known as executive livery. Really do like that livery, and I really like regional railways, possibly because I do remember this livery well. In the old, before it was destroyed, desecrated, and made into a horrible station, Manchester Victoria. Back when it was a proper station, regional railways trains used to trundle through there an awful lot. I'm going to try and move these out of the way so I don't continually knock them. But right, Angus's Trains Hunter Valley Steamfest website. I'm gonna. Okay, let's see. Google is our friend. Hunter Valley Steamfest. Hunter Valley Steamfest. Hunter Valley Steamfest.com.au. Ooh, that is shiny. There you are, Angus. That's the website. If anybody else wants to have a look, hold on a moment. Let me just There you are. There's the website for the Hunter Valley Steamfest. I Like Transport. It's the regional railways one called Eisteddfod Genedlaethol. By the way, that's the Welsh national anthem. I thought that Eisteddfod was it's like what's the word for it? It's like a fair, a celebration, a competition thing. The Eisteddfod. I don't know whether it is the Welsh national anthem. I'm too drunk to go and look it up. But yeah, the fact that I can pronounce it, Eisteddfod Genedlaethol. But yes, that it is that one. It's one of the very early Bachmann releases. But hard to come by these days, because a lot of people whined about the chassis, because it's got an idler wheel there. That's an idler wheel, as is that one, and it's only driving 2 of the 3 axles on each bogie. Now, I'll be honest with you, the performance of it I find to be really good. I have no issues with the performance of that, but they did retool it to be all-wheel drive. Brockwell Lane, what loco type do you have the most models of? I'm not sure off the top of my head whether it's either the Class 8 or the Class 25. I can't remember off the top of my head how many I have of each, but they're up there. Class 25 or Class 8. It's one or the other. I Like Transport. Hang on, I think I got that bit about it being the Welsh national anthem wrong. Sorry. Yeah, don't worry about it. Warrington Train Spotter 2778. Do you bother with any of the diesel or steam galas at the East Lancs Railway? I did do the Class 40 gala, but I don't tend to go to a lot of preserved railways. I have such a busy life, doing so much stuff. I tend to, I value my. I work on Saturdays with my day job, and I value my Sundays. Generally, they're my unwinding days from a busy week's work. So I don't tend to get to preserved railways an awful lot. Mr. Dreaded 88. Hi Jenny, hope all is well. Everything's grand. Good to have you along. Nice to see you again. And as you can probably tell, slightly tipsy, having a nice, cheeky South African red wine. South Africans, they do a good red wine, along with the Chileans and Australia as well, I have to say. The wine producers in Australia, you know what you're doing. But let's have a look. Philip Page, thanks for the sub. I like trans. Right, yeah. I love the way we bring people together. This is great, this. But how are we doing on time? 1 hour, 45 minutes we're coming up on. I'm going to wrap this up because I desperately need a wee. and I'm very mindful. It's like there's a sober person deep down inside going, what the hell's going on? And the drunk person's going, hey, look, I can steer. Don't you worry about me. And yeah, drink driving, don't do it ever. I will not be going out and driving because I don't. Even if I just have a sip of alcohol, I refuse to drive. Just thought I'd put that out there. Yeah, Eisteddfod Genedlaethol is the National Festival of Wales. I knew it was something like that. Yeah, Andrew Keeley, fun times. Till next week. Yep, see you again next week. 7 o'clock GMT. We're going to be back here. Shed Chat Live, regular feature. It's grand. Also, don't forget, you can check me out on Patreon, and also you can look through all the videos that we've been doing. Trains going by, and also we're building the Fun Model Railway in the loft, full-on loft conversion. There'll be a new video going up about that on Friday. We've got a box opening and review to do on Wednesday. So it's going to be quite interesting. A bit of a change of scale. A little clue for you there. A change of scale for Wednesday's box opening and review. Excuse me. Let's have a look. Thanks for the great streaming by I Like Trans. But yeah, it's been great to have you all along. So I'm going to wrap this up now. We've had a quick look at the Daypol models. Stay tuned to this channel for more videos coming up, and it's been great to have you all along. Actually, I'm really honoured that you've all dropped in to see what I've been up to, and hope to see you all again next week. But until next week, let's make me full screen. Let's see, 3. There we go. But until next week, look, you take really good care of yourself, and we'll hope to see you again then. In the meantime, check out those videos. Look back through the channel. If you're not already subscribed, I'm sure you are, but if you haven't, don't forget to subscribe, ring that bell, and also I posted some links up. Don't forget to check those out. We've got some good stuff there, some good reviews from other people. And next week as well, don't forget to remind me, the people who asked, and we ran out of time to be able to show other people's channels, remind me at the start of next week and we'll get those up there. Don't you worry. And well, until next time, you take really good care of yourself, and I will hopefully have sobered up by then. God, what must you think of me? God, it's like, oh yeah, let's go and watch Jenny get very slowly more and more drunk. But anyway, until then, you take really good care of yourself. Bye for now. Right. How does this work? I feel like that bit in Wayne's World where Garth's just there going, there's a button I have to press. See you later.